ever encountered those phrases that you hear them and you don't think about what they really mean, or you think that you understand what they mean, but then later you realize I've taken it out of context, or wow, that was racist. Or a good example, I used to have a science teacher who would say all the time, Kipcho. Well, what he was using was his own made up acrostic, keep your cotton picking hands off. Yeah, I know it didn't even fit, but keep your cotton picking hands off was his way of saying, don't touch that. Those devices or elements or tools are off limits. I don't think he understood the racism behind cotton picking hands, though, and what he meant when he was saying it didn't reflect a concern for other people's feelings. There are phrases that I think, and ideas that I think, and ways of being that I think have the same unintended consequences, but they are significant consequences nonetheless. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast, 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I watched a video this morning about socialism. And it wasn't Venezuela, and it wasn't Cuba, and it wasn't the Icelandic states, and it wasn't the Norway, Sweden states. It was America. Yeah, it was America circa 1800s, maybe earlier. But the effect is even felt today. See, it was a video about the Navajo Nation and how they've been moved and then herded and then offered a land, which was always their land to begin with, but offered land in a place where basically they don't have to pay any bills. They're given subsidies from the government in all kinds of different ways. But the title of this message today is really about leaders understand that there's a value in work that goes way beyond the income that comes from it. Right? There's something powerful about the idea of a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old grabbing the lawnmower out of the garage and going up and down the street and mowing lawns for other people so that he can have a little extra spending cash. We've done away with that in a lot of cultures because we have allowances and mom and dad both work. And so they provided the income instead for them to, have soccer games and Xboxes and all of the other accoutrements of life that come from the hard work of the parents. And so in a lot of ways, we've taken the work ethic away from young people. Young people don't necessarily want to work. They want the benefit of work. They want the job because it provides a paycheck, but they don't really want the work. And often that shows in the attitude they have while they're at work. I talked about customer service earlier this week, and a young man who was so entitled that he felt like, you can't even complain against me because you're privileged that I'm here, which is a really twisted way of looking at the world. But in this particular video that I shared this morning about socialism and the Navajo Nation, the young lady said, when her elementary age kids came home with paperwork from the school, she thought, well, this is pretty cool. I mean, it's way early to be teaching them how to fill out a job application, but I'm glad they're teaching them about forms and how to fill these things out. That's pretty cool. So I sat down with them to go through the forms, and what I realized was the form they had sent home with the kids was an application for food stamps. They sent the kids home with a form to fill out for food stamps. She said, that's when it dawned on me that from the earliest days of their existence, we're training them to comply with the system. We're training them just to fit in, to get in, to go along in order to get along. She said, I've watched generation after generation who've died in alcoholism and drug abuse because they've lost all sense of purpose. The unemployment rate in that particular population base is 57%. She said, we can't get jobs because we're all so caught up in drug abuse and alcohol abuse and domestic violence that our society, within our own community, our own culture, is crumbling. And it's because we've been given for so long, we've lost our sense of being. And it dawned on me. I can remember having conversations with other guys my age. Yes, I'm an old dude, but with other guys my age, and some a little bit younger, maybe as much as 10 to 15 years younger, who say, my first job was 7 or 8 years old. I was pushing the lawnmower up and down the street, mowing lawns for people whose houses I could walk to. But I know there are young people today who are 15 and 20 years old that if you ask them, hey, could you mow my lawn for me? I'll give you $20. They would laugh at you because that job is beneath them, or they would laugh at you because that's not enough of a paycheck for the amount of physical labor that you would be expecting them to do. Well, that's a challenge. But the flip side of that is they do have an expectation that someone will give them money for nothing, or someone will give them money because they deserve it, or someone will give them money because they're privileged. And I really believe that leaders understand it's not just about the paycheck. Yes, equal work for equal pay is an absolute moral, ethical way to do business. But sometimes the value rests way deeper than the paycheck. The value of having the opportunity to do work is a whole lot more than the paycheck they're going to get from it. So here's the ancient phrase that I've heard thousands of times. I've been teaching it to my children since they were 3 and 4 years old. When we owned our own business and our kids were little, and we've owned our own business since 2005. But since then, when the kids would show up and we would say, all right, you need to help us do this. So like, we want to go play. We want to go be a part of this party that you're going to do called Fun Time Live. And the neighborhood kids would show up just in time for us to leave because they all wanted to pile in the big truck and go to the party with us. And we finally got to the point where we said, look, we've got 3 free passes. We'll let you in. But understand this phrase and learn to apply it. If a man wants to eat, let him work. Now, see, I've always thought, and I believe it's still true, that statement says, don't give anybody a free ride. If he wants to eat, he needs to work. He needs to put in some effort. He needs to contribute to what's going on. He needs to be a productive member of the organization, of the community, of the society. So don't come to me to go party with us and be a freeloader and sit in the back seat and expect you don't have any work to do. If you're going to show up for the party, show up for the work that's got to be done to pull off the party. That's the way I've always applied that. And for that reason, I have young people in my life, my children and the ones that they hang out with, that from the day they were old enough to get a job, 16th birthday, people have hired them. And my boys, who are now 21 and 23, have a work ethic and a reputation at work of being hard workers, showing up and getting the job done and doing their best to do it right. Not to say they don't make mistakes or lose their cool and act like idiots, but they show up and they do the job right and they do it with a good attitude. There are young men that are part of their lives that have been around us for that 15 years who have the same work ethic now as well, who show up and they work hard. And if you ask them, they'll say it's because I hung out with those boys when I was growing up. But there's also something in that phrase that I've missed sometimes, and that is let, allow, give permission. If a man wants to work, give him permission to work. If a man wants to eat, give him the right to work. Give him permission to work. Give him access to work. Allow him to work. It's not just a matter of whether or not he's going to work to earn his way and be a part of the community, but there's a sense of purpose, a sense of well-being, a sense of I've done my part, a sense of ownership that comes from actually putting in the work, doing the labor, showing up and doing the job. Whether it's a physically taxing job or a mentally taxing job is not relevant. It's participating in the opportunity to be productive. That's the deeper meaning behind hard work. And good leaders understand that by giving and giving and giving and giving and expecting nothing back, you're robbing people of the opportunity to have that sense of purpose, that sense of well-being, and that sense of contribution. Ask anybody on any team. Would they rather have the acknowledgement that they've been a productive part of the team or just a pay raise? Most people don't quit companies because of the pay raise. Most people leave a job in search of another job because they don't have the appreciation of feeling like they've pitched in and it's been acknowledged. So if a man wants to eat, if a woman wants to eat, let them work. Give them the opportunity. Give them permission and give them the right. Just giving them the food robs them of a sense of purpose. I challenge you to watch the video from TPUSA about socialism in the Navajo Nation and the impact that the Navajo people say it's had on their life. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.